Hello, this is the last module of the course of Classroom Language Assessment for Teachers. In this video, we will present and discuss the most important qualities of good language assessment. In other words, what is good language assessment like? 6 qualities will be discussed in this module, including reliability, validity, authenticity, interactiveness, impact, and practicality. In this video, we will discuss reliability and validity. Firstly, we will see what reliability is. You may have heard this word several times in the last modules when we discussed the features of closed-ended and open-ended questions. The reliability of language assessment means that the assessment always provides students with consistent or similar scores. The assessment may be done many times in different conditions by different raters or teachers, or the test can be split in 2 halves, but students taking the assessment will still receive the same or slightly different scores. In the case of splitting half reliability, student scores in the 2 halves should be consistent. What do you think can cause low reliability? Well, the answer is the assessment questions themselves, which may be ambiguous, so students understand them differently in different times. It may also be the raters who do not score with the same leniency or severity. The conditions such as the room, the facilities at different times may also be different, or students may have opportunities to cheat, resulting in different students' results. For these reasons, standardized tests with strict conditions always have higher reliability than classroom assessment. The comparison between 2 gunmen's results of shooting into 2 targets, as you can see, may illustrate the quality of reliability. Each man shoots 5 times. The one on the left shoots 5 times to nearly the same point in the targets. The man on the left focused on different points, including one at the heart of the target. The first man is considered to have higher reliability, even though he does not hit the central point any time. Secondly, and most importantly, language assessment should be valid. This means it should assess what it aims to assess and nothing else. If writing competence is the aim, the test should only test writing and not the ability to read and try to understand the text question, for instance. In that case, the text question needs to be very clear and simple. Let's have a look at the first type of validity, which is content validity. This kind of validity depends on a careful analysis of the content in the test or assessment task and the focus of particular course objectives. Specifically, the test should contain a representative sample of the course objectives. It is important to make clear the relation of the test items and the course objectives. In order to improve content validity, at the beginning of designing assessment, teachers should first draw up a table of specification to indicate which parts of the assessment deal with which objectives. To understand the second type of validity, construct validity, we need to understand the word construct. This is a common term in language assessment, which means the specific definition of an ability that an assessment task can assess. This ability is based on to explain the results of the assessment later. Some common construct in language proficiency tests includes listening comprehension, speaking proficiency, academic writing proficiency, etc. These constructs are established based on a careful literature review. In a classroom assessment, the construct is based on the course objectives. It can be sample of the most important course objectives and is called the assessment objectives. If an assessment has construct validity, it is capable of measuring the construct. For example, a reading achievement test in a class is considered having good validity when it can test some reading objectives based on the course description, not something the students are not taught. Next, the third traditional type of validity is named criterion validity. This type of validity is obtained after comparing the results of the assessment task and other assessment tasks which aim at the same construct and which are considered valid. For instance, a new test of English for achievement purpose can be compared to an old one which has already been proved to have good validity. Let's have an illustration. Please study the three pictures of three targets for three gunmen. The first man shoots at many different points in the target. The second man shoots at a smaller range of points around the targets. The last man shoots to nearly the same point, but nearly outside the target. Who do you think is the most reliable man? Who do you think is the most valid? Who is the best shooter? Well, the first man is highly unreliable in his shooting because he has different results in different times. The third man provides consistent results but off the central points. So in assessment, he is considered invalid, not to the point, not hitting what is targeted. The second man or the middle pictures reflects the best case here, even though the results are still different from time to time, but in many times they hit the center of the target. In a test, if the test provides different scores in different times and the question do not focus on the key objectives, then we have picture 1. It is highly unreliable and invalid test. If all the test questions measure the objective well and provide consistent results, we have a high validity and reliability test. If the test provides similar results all the time, but do not test what we want to test, it is reliable but not valid. This is the case of assessing reading comprehension, but asking students to answer the question on how tall they are. We have a consistent answer no matter how many times we ask the question, but we don't know students' reading ability. As opposed to the traditional definition that validity is the ability of an instrument to measure the construct, the modern view states that validity is the most important assessment quality, and to check validity, we need to check the amount of theoretical evidence and empirical evidence which support the accurate interpretations of the assessment results and the exact use of the assessment. The theoretical evidence for validity can be found in the relevant literature review, the context features, and by the experience of the assessment designers. The empirical evidence often indicates the statistical evidence of validity. That means we check the results for statistical evidence which prove that we can be confident to make good inferences from students' scores. With a valid assessment, we can be sure that students with score 7 or grade A can meet a number of learning objectives. It is important to note that validity is based on the accuracy of interpretation or results explanation, unlike reliability, which is the accuracy of the results. If we can base on the assessment to have consistent explanation and feedback based on student results, then the assessment is quite valid. There are a number of validity aspects or validity types according to the unified validity theory of Samuel Messick in 1989. They are called content, substantial, structural, generalizability, external, and consequence. To paraphrase, the teachers can base on a number of questions to check the validity of their assessment task. Question number 1. Are the contents of the assessment task relevant to students and the course? Question number 2. Do the parts or items represent the typical skills or components of the construct or course objectives? Question number 3. Are the scores given to different parts of the assessment task relevant to the importance of the parts? Next, are different parts in the assessment task related to each other and to the construct under measurement? Next, are the results of the assessment task comparable to similar ones? Another question is, are the results used appropriately to their purposes? Finally, what are the relationships between reliability and validity? The two concepts are usually complementary, but in some special situations, they conflict with each other. Sometimes, as validity increases, reliability is difficult to obtain, and vice versa. This occurs when the construct has a highly abstract and not easily observable definition. Thus, there is a challenge when we assess difficult constructs such as writing and speaking in projects or portfolios. It is hard to measure them in a concrete manner. If a scale is reliable, would it be valid? It may not be true. If a scale is valid, would it be reliable? Yes. We have discussed two complicated concepts in language assessment. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask in the forum. Goodbye for now.